Hey all, welcome to the Sports Science Stooge. We are in what is the second week of June already. And this is Tony here sitting in as the primary host for the week. Dr. Antonio is away. I got my co-host, my colleague, my friend, my longtime partner in strength and conditioning, Dr. Corey Peacock, joining us as the co-host today. And a real good guest, my good friend of both of ours, actually. Truly a guy who just does outstanding work in the S&C field. What I love about Coach Jeremy over at the Athletic Enhancement Group, you guys are right in Wellington, Jay, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
In Wellington, Florida, is quality work, a great product, without the theater, without the glitz, a hardworking guy who really does some great stuff with athletes of all different disciplines. But right now, Coach Jay has got a lot of the top fighters too in the world. We'll talk about that. For those who haven't met you, those who don't know you yet, Jeremy, can you give us a background? It's extensive, man. You've been in this game a real long time.
Been a while. My first, man, goes way back, but I guess my first recollection of doing actual professional work started right at the back end of '96. And that was my first, I guess I'd have to say it, my restricted earnings, my first paid internship, my pro position. But I went into the Dolphins at the time under the tutelage of John Gamble.
Wow.
John's like my second dad, taught me everything I know and then some. I always say he molded me to some aspect of, what he needed at the time and what he thought strength and conditioning was going into, or the way it was, the way it was moving and how you should look at it and look at it a little different than as we get through, textbooks and stuff. So John definitely was huge. That was back in '96. I bounced around a couple different NFL teams, just restricted earnings and internships. I was briefly lent out to the Denver Broncos under Mike Shanahan for the 1999 Super Bowl. Yeah, so I got to stir the soup.
But that was a good squad, man. That was Terrell Davis, right? And
yeah, John Elway was our quarterback.
Yep.
Terrell Davis, running back.
Yep.
Ed McCaffrey, which his son is doing amazing. Christian, he was one of my wide receivers.
That's right.
And the list goes on. Mark Schlereth, one of our linemen.
Yes, center.
You name it. Shannon Sharp, the whole crew. So, yeah. And then from there, I went back to Miami briefly to help John out for just a few weeks. And then got an opportunity to work with Mark Isanovich at Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers under Tony Dungy, which was neat. Was a whole different ideology and a whole different methodology of how they do their strength and conditioning, their prep. They were back then, and still, a lot of people talk about HIT method, but they were a true HIT method. There was a lot of hammer strength was used, counted reps, meaning the concentric phase, a hold, and eccentric phase. Used to do things like crazy five. So it was a 5-minute concentric press, 5-second hold on the joint at extension, and then a 5-second descent to return. And there was a lot of interesting stuff. And we ran a whole team that way. So it was a whole nother realm for me to pick up and try to understand. And I mean, it goes on, but I worked for Angelo Dundee. If, a lot of our boxing fans out there, worked for Angelo about 8 years.
That was in Miami, or?
Yeah, Miami. And we were in Miami a lot, and in Davie. He had like a little hidden boxing gym actually near Nova. It was about 3 blocks south of Nova, in that little warehouse district. There's a little gas station there now and like a pizza joint, but the back was this like 3,000 square foot gym. We had 2 rings, a hose for a shower, and a couple other things. But we had but we had like 30 of the top fighters in the world there that no one even knew. We had Olympians, you name it, and I handled all the strength and conditioning then, and learned a ton from Ange, and this kind of really molded me in my combat sports.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man. And 2 Olympic teams I worked for. Unfortunately, not my own country, but I helped Russia a bit, and was still amazing. And then got back into football again. I started FIU's football program with Don Strock. I was an assistant there. Got to work with Howard Schnellenberger later as for football, director of strength and conditioning there. did some arena football stuff, and then got into polo, the private sector, and all along I was getting kind of pulled back into combat sports. And second facility now, and we've had two in Wellington, and then I actually have a small private facility that's for polo players only, for one specific organization, for Audi Racing, and it's just their 5 or 6 members, and they all train there, and they have a on-staff massage therapist and on-staff physical therapist, and everything gets done in-house over there. So I bounce between the 2 facilities. And that's it. That's all I can remember.
That's a little more than that's it, my friend. That's a good background. It's great you had a diversity of philosophies too, different people you got to work under, and even I think there's a tendency to think everything is so systematic, or the thinking is equal, right? Mm-hmm. Or at a given level. So NFL, here are the basic ways that strength and conditioning is approached. But yet you find out, and your experience showed you too, that completely different philosophies, right? Even at the professional level.
Night and day.
Yeah. And that exists currently too. I mean, especially in our game, in MMA, and obviously it's less structured, but there are a million philosophies out there, of course, of what should be done, what shouldn't be done, and they're argued about, they're fought about. The truth is, I'm not really sure. And Dr. P can comment on this as well, is if we know what is the best, particularly when it comes to a sport with, which is less standardized anyway than other professional sports. What I mean by that is, a wide receiver has a general prototype, right? There are deviations, but your guy's going to be 6'2". He's going to be 210. Mm-hmm. Your old lineman's going to have a physical prototype. Your running back is. MMA, we got guys running around and women running around. One guy could fight at lightweight at 6'2", and the other can be 5'6". So they're 2 different species completely in the same weight class.
That's the crazy part of it.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy, kind of thinking about that football background and trying to bring that into combat sports. What would you say are kind of the best traits of quote unquote football strength and conditioning that you've been able to bring into the combat sports world and actually have success with? And then vice versa, what are some of the adjustments you had to make moving from the sport of football into combat sports?
That's good. That's good, Corey. I got a huge one there, and I've been asked this a lot, and I kind of have fun with it. And some of it I actually took off of Mark Asanovich, because he initially kind of pinned me on this when I was in Tampa with a team and a philosophy that I didn't know anything about. So he had a really neat way to like kind of peel it back and just look at everything as a whole, and then see where there were some different variables or probability or chances of injury. So if you look back, and I kind of molded this from him, and I said, man, the neck is like the biggest thing. So I used to we used to have this like joke, like not a joke, but it was a way to like really, hammer the point home. If we were stuck on a deserted island, I had to train an athlete, regardless of the sport, whether it was MMA, soccer, water polo, and football. I would do one, and I only could do one thing or one methodology. It would be training the neck, because once I'm off that deserted island, I can do whatever. But if you get your neck hurt in any of those said sports or unsaid, you're off the field, you're off the court, you're off the horse, and you're out of the ring. So, and then obviously in MMA, it was a great thing. I kind of created, by adapting stuff, created my own neck protocol, and a lot of, just passive movement where I'm giving some slight resistance, nothing crazy, working all different ranges of motion in the head. I don't do the biting on the mouthpiece and flinging the weight around, what all of us did when we were 14 in a boxing gym. But they were on the right path, But I say the neck stuff is amazing, and I think that's now it's kind of getting popular. Also, you got some great guys that have hooked me up. I actually hooked up Team Harrison as well over at Iron Neck. Mm-hmm. So not a product plug, but amazing piece. We throw that in as well. Take it when we travel. But we do all kind of stuff with the towel on the head and resistance in all different ways, and a lot of just manual resistance, like I said, some time resistance, time holds, and everything in a nice full range of motion, nothing irky jerky. So the one thing I would hammer home in any sport and any strength coach, if you're kind of reevaluating what you're doing, or even a somebody personal training that's getting into working with athletes. Say it 5 times in a row, neck, 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 and you can't forget it. And the picture I was kind of relating to, you guys can look it up. There's an old picture of Mike Allstott, the fullback.
I remember him.
Was a beast, big old number 40, if I remember right.
I was
Yes.
actually going to ask you that when you brought up your Tampa Bay. That was the first thing that popped on my head was
Allstott. Massive beast.
Right.
So there's one of him going
everybody-
over the goal line, like basically landing on his full axial load of all his own body weight coming down on his head, stands up, gets around, dances a little bit, made the touchdown, and off to the next play. And a lot of that's attributed to the fact that he did, you know, a lot of neck work, and dude probably had like a, I don't know, I forget, but probably like a 25, 26-inch neck or whatever he had, but mammoth of a fullback. But yeah, so that'll show it, you know, that's one crazy instance. It's actually a picture I want to get in the facility. I've been meaning to do it and I keep forgetting. And I'll say this is why we do neck.
And what were his stats? About 6'2", 250, 245?
Big boy. Yeah, he was a big boy. I think he left right when I got there. He either went to, I don't know if he went to New Orleans. I forget where he went. I think he left right when I was coming out of camp. So I didn't get to work with him. But beast of a fullback anyways. So yeah, neck would be the thing since we killed that, but neck. And then you said, what was kind of the weird thing to what was?
Yeah. What did you have to adjust out of? What kind of principles did you take over from football, thinking that they may have had a good place in fighting, and then you had to get away?
I can go everywhere with that one, man. Remember, so it's years of combat sports. I started messing around with boxing when I was like 5, 6 years old, and always around it. My family would get together on the weekends and we'd watch like Friday night fights and all that stuff.
Right.
I thought everybody did that, but I would go to school on Monday. No one knew what I was talking about.
Right.
So I had to talk football or baseball because they didn't know the boxing. But yeah, ton of football, but I'd have to say almost really your volume approach and your mindset of that volume and intensity and the movements or the exercises you choose. Because if you go in training a fighter, I don't care weight class or whatever, and you put them through that sheer volume or that type of intensity that we would do with the weights, and God forbid they got sparring the next day, or maybe if they're not in for a fight, maybe they're helping somebody in sparring, they're going to go in stiff, they're going to get banged around, and at the end of the day, it's about staying fresh, regardless of the sport. But MMA in particular, combat sports, if I can be the guy with the less nicks, the less bruises, and not as beat up, I got a massive advantage going into that fight. I'm more fresh. So you know, I don't know. It's kind of like for the older strength coaches, I guess. I don't know if you say 35 plus. We all know what Tetris is, the game Tetris. Working with MMA athletes to me is like a weekly Tetris game. So we'll have this great outline and these great goals, and the X amount of weeks are marked off before we compete. But then you have to, so-and-so's wife is mad at them. So-and-so's whatever's mad. This one's happy. This one's didn't sleep for 2 days or had the most amazing sleep because they wear their Oura ring now and all this stuff. And you got to be great with, you know, adapt and conquer, plug and play, and move stuff around. And mind you, I call them position coaches because that's my real realm, what I come from. But your striking coach, he's technically a position coach if you want to compare football.
It's a good analogy.
You know what I mean? And then you got a boxing guy, you got your Muay Thai, your wrestling, your jiu-jitsu, you name it. So there's 7, 8 technically head coaches who love their discipline and are pushing the intensity and volume of that. So now you kind of have to juggle all that, and somewhere you got to put in proper strength and conditioning to just ensure the athlete's progressing and not overworking with volume and intensity so they're dead for the position guys.
Right.
And that's kind of the biggest thing was, you know, football's go, 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 kill, 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 heavier, faster, you know, that's where you come out of. You then learn that that's not really the way either, but there's a ton of intensity in there when you're lifting with a football team, or you got, you know, linebackers and DNs is one of your groups. Then you got your wide receivers and your quarterbacks as a group. And you got your kickers, punters, long snappers. That's another group. Then D-line. And yes, they have some general characteristics for those positions, but then there's different movements for them. But kind of adapting all that over, it doesn't fully hit. That's why I'm kind of like, I'm always leery. That's kind of like the internal battle, I guess. I think all of us have it. We're always looking for the best thing for our fighters. So because we're speaking on fighters, right? So we want them to be the healthiest as possible, mentally as stable as possible. And we want them, it's great they're fighting and all that and making money that way, but they need to have a life after that. You know, if they have kids and whatever, you can't walk around, do amazing, take a pounding now, and then in 5 years I see you drooling in the corner because we pushed you hard and wanted to get one more fight, you know?
Particularly the case in boxing a lot too, because of the
boxing,
head damage. Yeah.
You know, a ton. I've seen it firsthand.
But yeah, quick question too to both you and Corey regarding that, just quickly. I think one of the things that I find different, and I don't have the experience, because Corey, you did a lot of S&C at the high football levels as well. The one thing we have to be cognizant of in the MMA world, hypertrophy is pretty much almost an objective in American football. Am I right? Like it's really not going to be an issue at any given position. And in some given positions, you want to pack that muscle on, particularly linebacker, or if they're getting tackled. We've got to avoid that. And that's pretty challenging, to put excessive amounts of muscle tissue on while eliciting the same physiological benefits. And I've always found that sometimes to be a challenge. Now, body type wise, there are some guys who can lift all the time. They're just not going to put that much muscle on, you know, and that's okay. But then we got other guys that hit a couple of weights and pack on 5 to 10 easy.
Boom. Yeah, they swell up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that, not having the knowledge of either of you on the football level, but that's one of the things I think might be something that we have to be cognizant of. And one of the greater differences. Am I correct there? Or
I agree.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely think so. I mean, I think that's the thing, right? You look at the nature of football. There's a good portion of the year that hypertrophy is the goal.
Exactly.
We don't have to worry about injury prevention. We don't have to worry about conditioning. We don't have to worry about all of those different things that we worry about in MMA. But like you said, in MMA, there's never a point in time that we're not worried about conditioning and potentially size. I mean, that's the nature of it. We're always in a position where we're cognizant of that weight, where we're cognizant of that size. So I completely agree with you.
And speaking, you know, another neat one with that gets overlooked at times. Think of all the late notice fights we'll take on 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Football, I literally know come June, I'm in preseason, off season. Then I know I got quarterback camps, usually 3 or 4, or you want to call them quarterback schools, little mini camps.
Right.
Then we go into preseason. Then we cut who we got to cut. We get our 57-man roster. Boom. Now we got our starters. Season starts. We pray for postseason, get through a couple rounds of playoffs, go to the championship. We're done come end of February.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the same thing every friggin' year.
Right.
MMA, not even close.
Yeah. If you play for the Jets, you're done, by the way, in December, but that's a separate issue.
And that's a good thing, I think. I don't know. All my Jets people out there are going to get mad, but I don't mind.
Yeah, I like the Jets, so I get it. But that's a great point, Jay, because, and Corey, the traditional periodization models, or, you know, which work well when there is a predetermined schedule, a predetermined off season. We just don't have it in MMA. And to your point, Jeremy, I've always said too, you know, I've used undulating models, or if, you know, some people call them conjugate. There's so many different names really for technically enhancing the same qualities. But I've never had, unless when you get to the elite level and you have a fighter that's a world champ, you know, okay, they're probably not fighting again for 4 or 5 months. But to your point, anybody in between that, particularly at the levels just below, let's say Bellator or UFC, they can get called on 3-4 weeks notice, and they don't want to turn the fights down. So technically our goal is to keep all the biomotor qualities primed all the time, right? We don't want to be 4 weeks out of a fight and only be doing heavy strength training with that athlete. I think we lost him for a second.
We lose him. We'll wait for him to sign back on.
Yeah, we'll just wait for him to sign back in. And Joey will edit it. Let me see what that time. Where are you at Killcliff? Corey?
Yeah, they're getting ready. They got kickboxing at 5 o'clock.
Okay. We'll be done by then.
Here, right? Here's your good buddy, Jason Strout.
Hey, what's up,
I'm
Jason?
Richie.
How are you, my man? Good to see you. You all right? Good.
He's getting ready to go out there and rally the troops.
All right. Yeah, we'll get it done. Hopefully, let's see if we can get him back on.
Yeah. He was on his phone, wasn't he?
Yeah.
How many episodes have you and Joey done? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Probably, gosh, I don't know, 55?
Been that much? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we have up to Joey. What I'll do is I'm going to start that question all over again, and you can just pick up when Jeremy gets back on. So, Jay, we see you almost. Yep, I just got to go to unmute, my man. And once you do that, I'm going to just pick up on that question all over again. Joey, we'll just have to cut it there. Still have you on mute. All right, there we go.
He's talented. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to pick up on the same question, though, but
Sorry.
that's all right. All right, Joey, so we started from here. So one of the things we would, when we look at it, gentlemen, the traditional periodization models were built around a conclusive season, off-season, in-season. And to your point, Jeremy, we don't have that in MMA, right? When you get to the elite level, the highest levels, okay, you have, by the way, everybody, Jeremy is Kayla Harrison, strength coach, amongst many other great fighters from American Top Team. I need to note that Corey is head strength coach over at Killcliff. So these guys have worked with, I can probably count, 15, 20 world champs between them. But the point in MMA is, at the elite level, your world champ may not have a fight for 4 or 5 months, but the men and women climbing might have to take that fight on short notice, right? That 3-4 week bout. And under those circumstances, the way I've always felt is I don't want to get caught up in being in one phase only. So if I got 5 or 6 weeks of strength training under my belt, and now the fighter gets a call on 3 weeks, and none of the other physical qualities are primed, at least as we see it in strength and conditioning, then I'm kind of leaving them in a pit. So I've always tried to manage. Certainly we can emphasize, okay, we're emphasizing strength now, but let's keep power in check. Let's keep a little localized muscle endurance in check, so they're always prepared, right? And I've always found that to be the greatest challenge in MMA because of the nature of the schedule,
No, that's true. It's tough.
Yeah.
I stick to a lot of complex work just to be safe.
Right, exactly.
So we grab some dumbbells, just a simple one we do all the time, which I got. If anyone wants to get into complexes, and kind of, to me, it's like the guy's like the godfather of them is Istvan Dvorak.
Yeah,
he's got the old Dvorak complex and all that. I do his
Great stuff.
Great guy. And I do a lot of, my own adaptations in there based on the athlete, based on post-injury, for the fighter. But that's kind of like our secret sauce, man, for at least on my end, what we do a lot of range of motion stuff, good chunk of high velocity, kind of regardless of where we are.
That's great.
And the reason I do it, majority of our guys and gals we have can look at serving a protein and throw on 5 pounds of muscle. So let alone pick something up. There's 7 pounds now. So they're beasts, they're just built a little different. They can gain like that. And that's one of the ways it's a little easier for me to kind of keep a baseline body weight for them, without doing the excessive amounts of volume in jogging and all that kind of stuff, which just wears them out anyways.
Right.
That makes it easier for the nutrition team once they come in and start to cut and do whatever, gives them a little cleaner, a little smoother product, so they don't got to cut an extra 15 pounds. At least that's what we do on my end.
Yep. Corey, anything add on that?
No, I mean, I think we're very similar in that regard. I think it's always that kind of that main point. It's we're stuck in a situation where we are, I don't want to say, we have to keep people ready year round. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's science tells us we can't you can't keep somebody peaked year round, yet we see in kind of MMA, we're doing that,
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing about it. It's definitely tough.
It's tough. And getting feedback from your fighters and the other coaches. Like, I know Corey is, myself and Tony, I know you are. We're big on communication, no egos in the room or what have you, but it's go to the head coach or whoever's the acting head at the time.
Absolutely.
Hey, how's he or she doing? What do you notice? Oh man, they were a little slow. What'd you guys do? We actually didn't do anything. That was probably the 5 extra rounds of Muay Thai they did yesterday.
Exactly.
But
Yep.
let's try something else, and then a lot of times I'll get, all the feedback from whoever's working with said fighter. And then I say, okay, one, what can I do to keep them feeling good? So their spirits are up, they're moving good. That's actually going to give me some progress. Not overwork them, keep the intensity where we need it to be, and not put them into this slump of fatigue where we're getting weird heart rate readings in the morning and weird pulses, and now we're overtrained. And it's kind of this, like I said, back to that whole Tetris, plug and play, make it work, and find a way.
Yep.
That is MMA, really. It's just
Exactly right. And I like that Tetris analogy. I've always said it. I think of Andy Reid, and I pretty much sit there with like a play card.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staring at it, and I got to figure out what is the best play at this time. Because to your point, you may want to do some lower extremity work with one of the athletes, and they got heel hooked the night before. Now their ankle's the same size as their thigh. All of a sudden, you're doing some upper body metrics.
It's true.
It just
All
doesn't
the
work
time.
out. Yeah, it
the
doesn't
time.
work out the way we would like it to. And one thing I liked what you said, Jay, and I was lucky. I had a great relationship working with Ray Longo for 10 years. Ray
Awesome
and I.
guy.
And the great thing about Ray is I always asked him, to your point, Jeremy, what do you need? What can I do? How can I help? Because I've seen these guys go in and they start pointing fingers on how they're going to change everything, directing what needs to be done. This is particularly true in nutrition. As I just about finished the position stand along with Corey for the ISSN, you have all the dietitians come in and go, well, I'm going to run the weight cut this way, and I'm going to run it that way, and I'm going to make this athlete do nutrition this way. They're not sitting there with a red carpet, rolling it out for you, ready to come in and change everything about their camp according to the way you'd like it to be. We really have to negotiate time in and time out. Almost, we can have a plan, but almost on a daily basis, have to make changes on the fly. And what may best represent the strategy for that day, as opposed to even that week. And that's one of the greatest challenges that I think we confront in MMA performance.
For sure. For sure. That's, and I joke around, you'll hear me say, stir the soup. Right. Sometimes you got weeks and you have this world-class fighter, world-class coaches across the board, right? Man, everybody's smiling. We don't gotta stand on one hand, balance a ball on our head, and flip over the building. Just stir the soup, man. Get to next week.
Yes, right.
We got no injuries. Everybody's happy. Get out your ladle and friggin' stir that sucker. And
there you go. Good analogy.
Keep the spices right and move on, because the goal is to fight. Our fight isn't done, in camp. Camp's just prep. We get paid when you fight.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get paid taking fancy pictures and stuff during camp and say, oh, look at this cool exercise they did on one pinky with a finger up their nostril, balancing the ball. Get out of here. Just progress.
Exactly.
Stir the soup sometimes, guys.
I love that analogy, and that's the minimum dose needed. You didn't add any ingredient that day, just stir it up, right?
Stir it up. Keep them moving.
I got a question for you and Corey too, and if this exists now. So Corey's trained also, Usman, so many great champs over there at that team. You two, one time at American Top, right? And then, so my point is, guys, if given the ability, I understand, like sometimes Corey does something I could never do. I'm not good enough. That's what I mean. And he'll be forced to work with 10 or 15 fighters at a time. That's a challenge, but all different weeks of camps and different levels, and some guys still on the climb. And that's a big challenge. But you work, and you did a magnificent job, Jay, in getting Kayla prepared. Everyone, this guy did it. We were just, as friends, we were conversing about it, sharing, we were just sharing great ideas. You do. I don't think enough coaches, I think they're so systematic. In better words, if you take somebody like a Kayla who has to make 135, and then you got a girl who's 5'9", 5'10", making 135, right? Do you guys ever see that these athletes require not completely different training, but certainly a different emphasis in their training? Because basically we're dealing with a different person with potentially different fiber types, potentially a different limb length, segment length, and all of those variables, you know, are a factor in how much volume, particularly the athlete could even train. But just if you guys both give me maybe just 2 or 3 things you would look at and say, well, you know, I would train her a little bit different than her and him a little bit different than him.
Corey, you want to go or?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, the biggest thing looking at this sport is probably training age and injury history. I think those 2 things dictate those things dictate almost everything in terms of the stimulus I'm trying to put on the athlete. I would say things. You know, in terms of kind of, you know, I typically work with multiple fighters at one time. So I think that's kind of the thing too for me. It's timing. You know, learning and figuring out how to manage the room efficiently, probably the biggest skill that I've had to learn, because it's like, you know, I'm sitting out here, I'm looking through the door right now at 7 different guys that are fighting here this month. And, you know, they're all going to jump in probably the same group just because they've been trying to work together throughout their camp. But it's like, I know the guy that's 2 weeks out is going to be managing the pace of the room compared to the guy that's 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out, because it's just that thing. So it's like, you know, I always kind of laugh about this, but, you know, I'm almost setting up complexes and stations based on gym space to give them an opportunity to recover, because I know they're running from station to station, and I know they're not waiting for my whistle anymore. They're literally looking at me biting at the bit. So it's kind of, you know, for me, that's always been kind of the thing. Those are the 2 things, or I guess 3 things that I really have to go around: that injury history, training age, and then for me, timing, where they're at in camp and being able to manage that, make that a priority, but also progress the guys that are a little bit behind them as well.
Yeah, couldn't say it any better. Back to the, what was it, strength and conditioning 101, the health history. Know it. You don't know it, you're in trouble. So, I mean, and then I know we mentioned Kayla. She's an outlier. That's a whole nother, she's her own universe type of athlete. Man. Yeah, she's amazing. You know, athletic prowess, amazing. Her grit, amazing. I've told you. The heart she has, amazing. She's got, you know, when they always say the right stuff. Yeah. She's got the right stuff. Like, I agree. The intangibles that you really can't measure. And that was a funny thing with that last fight. Not taking away, you're going against Holly Holm and everything, and the former champion. The people made it more out that her getting to 135 or whatever, 136, that was the big wager. Which I was like, man, I have somebody that's a former world champ that wants to take her head off. I'm worried about that. I'm not really worried about the, you know, granted, we have Eric Pena who does tell you what, top to bottom, amazing nutritionist, amazing weight cut. Is the way he adapts. He's a Tetris guy. He can bounce around, find a way to get it done. He did impeccable job with her. You couldn't textbook write how well it went as far as on our side. She's the one that had to experience it. I can tell you from expressions, she didn't fully go with that feel, but she's a trooper. She's a true professional and definite outlier. I have not had an athlete like her. Yeah. Especially in MMA, just whole nother, just different and amazing person. It grieves me to admit, though, she's from Ohio. She's Ohio.
Nothing wrong with that.
She's Ohio.
And Dr. P's about as Ohio as they get.
I'll tell you though, Jeremy, I think it says, you know, you're kind of talking about what she brings to the table and that it factor and that grit. I think, you know, you've been on my radar as one of the best strength coaches in this combat sports field for a very long time. And it's a testament to what you do as well, that those particular athletes gravitate towards you. There's never a point in time that, you know, behind the scenes, you're working with champions and title contenders and people in that picture. And I would have to think when you really look at the qualities of all of those individuals, even though, you know, Kayla's a whole different beast, you know, share a lot of those same qualities. And, you know, you probably see fighters come and go, but those ones that share that quality of excellence stay with you and have gravitated towards you. And I think that's a testament to, you know, they're probably saying the same thing. He has that it factor when it comes to this approach, you know, his approach to strength and conditioning and his philosophy and his understanding of me as an athlete and, you know, my future as a normal person as I move out of the sport.
That's a great point. Yep. No, and I couldn't agree with you anymore, because there's a propensity for fighters, as we know, to incessantly, I mean, they don't from the big camps, like the big camps that you guys were part of and are part of now, but incessantly look for something new, for something different, an edge that someone else is doing that they don't feel they're getting. And it is a really good testimony for them to, once they're with you, Jay, to stay, right? Through the whole game and all the way to the top. And that's one of the things, like I said, I'm proud to know the work you do and how good it is. And the fact that you do it quietly and you do it effectively. So that's kind of rare today, at least the quiet part is.
I'm quiet sometimes. Most of the time I'm quiet. I like winning. I mean, we all like winning. The sheer competition of, even if you can do this much with that athlete, you know, that's your name's on them. And
exactly.
That's the you know, I can't compete in that stuff. None of us compete anymore. Our best way to compete is to put our best foot forward into that athlete, pour into them as a human, not just a product. I think that's something that's overlooked a lot. And you can go through Instagram and you'll see it within 5 seconds, somebody. And you really they're human beings. Now you want them, like I said, they got to have a life after this. It's not about lining your pocket.
Right.
You know, money comes and all that, but there's a whole thing you're building, you know, and it's your name's on them. I don't know. That's how I see it. I'm proud, win, lose, or draw. If they lose, I'm there quicker than when they win. You know, you see a lot of stuff, you know, guys, gals will lose, and that's the quietest, most empty locker room I've ever been in. And then you win, everyone and their mother's there, and maybe even a mother you didn't know you had shows up. So it's just a funny thing, you know. So
I agree on that. It could be real painful sometimes. Like, people don't know it hurts, right? You see your athletes work real hard. You know the human side. I mean, it's not just, there's a lot of glitz and glamour that it appears to be, but there are times, I'm going to tell you, there are times it's really sucked. And over again, I question why I did it, why I was in it. Because you know, like you said, they're human beings. You're coaching with them. You grow with them, you win with them, you lose with them. But there are times where it stings pretty bad when you see them losing or something just not go the way you would have hoped it could for them.
And I can tell you, I remember most wins I've been a part of. Like, I could probably go down the list if you twist me a little bit. But my damn losses, I can go back to, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, T-ball, like 1983. And I can tell you, we lost 32-31, and we were like the top team. And I think I've gotten over it. You know, I think I was, 9 years old. But I can literally go through every single one of those, whether when I was competing in whatever sport I was in at the time, or on a team, or with a team, or consulting for a team, or working with a fighter, or whatever. I can, to the second, I can tell you.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I've had a couple that's I didn't sleep for a week over it, so I know how it feels. So you guys both, you know, I don't want to. We'll maybe close out a little bit. I know Corey's got to get I think some work with his team in a couple of minutes. You got to get back to work. We'll just close it out on some thoughts on, you know, do we think, I know, you know, I'm good friends, and so is Dr. P, and you know the guys over there too. I am good friends with the guys at UFCPI. I think they've made some good contributions to our game. I really do. I think things like the cross-sectional analysis have been of value. They're bringing some good information out to, to the masses in the field. Of course, there are those who want to discount it. I don't know why. But what do you think? Are we going in the right direction performance-wise as the sport continues to grow? I mean, it is supposed to be the second most watched sport in the world by around 2030, second only to soccer/football. That's a statement, man. Yeah.
That's massive. I didn't know that. That's massive.
Yeah, those stats are pretty real because I've looked them up several times. That's the projection in total viewership internationally. So
that's remarkable.
It is. I think we're going in a pretty good direction. I think we're learning as long as we can keep, like I said, the theater out of it. Hopefully we can continue to advance this, make athletes faster, make them more durable.
I think us as coaches, we got to constantly do our own needs analysis and our approach. And find other ways, keep the communication up, find ways to kind of blend. I mean, just the three of us here, I mean, man, we could probably do 30 shows and get 30 different outcomes and sets and methodologies of what we should do. I think the one way to avoid a mistake for the future is to not question everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
And I agree. I mean, I think we are. We're moving in the right direction. I think as long as like-minded individuals like us and other people in the field that we collaborate with are on the same page, I think we can continue to keep this thing moving forward. I think it's changing so rapidly. The landscape of it is so dynamic. It's like I'm sitting here looking out these doors right now, and it's like there's 17, 18, 19-year-old kids on these mats now that have 300 plus amateur MMA fights now. So it's like, I think many of us as strength coaches have been pushed with that idea of like, we're bringing a wrestler into MMA. So how do we transition wrestling background, skill set, or BJJ practitioner into this? But now we're getting real life mixed martial artists, people that have been doing this since 9-10 years old with, whatever their sports they're playing, but it's just changing. And these conversations have to be in order for us to advance.
But you can see the whole changing of the guard. You can see the wave of think back of when we had just Pride.
Yep. My favorite days, actually.
20, how long ago was that? 20 years?
Yeah,
25?
24 years ago. Yep.
So that was the thing. Overseas, ding, 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 the fast bell. And then, and that was world class of this one discipline against this discipline. And then, and then you look at back then, I mean, granted they were in a ring. Then years later, the octagon comes around. Actually, we all remember, right? When guys would get, locked up on the, pushed against the cage, they didn't know what to do. So everyone would get taken down.
Yep.
And now you see everybody gets sideways, kicks the one leg back. They're fishing for the underhook to try to turn them. Nobody did that.
Exactly.
Now it's like, that guy was a karate guy, but watch his takedown defense. When before he had the karate dude, boom. He didn't even know what a sprawl was, So we're moving the right direction. I think technically, as for the fight coaches, they're adapting. The crazy part, like you said, Corey, these young guys are coming in with 2 toolboxes. Before you had a guy just show up with his hammer, and that's what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's amazing to see it.
Yep. And I'll close it out. I love what you said, though. I think that is the answer. Keep questioning. There people have told me many times that when I was doing this a lot, that I always overthink, you got to keep it simple, stupid, all of that. And I have no objection to that, but I would rather overthink and come at an elementary answer and arrive at that than arrive at that elementary answer because I refuse to think. So I think constantly questioning and how can we upgrade and having great conversations like this, which makes me think at the end of this, gentlemen, maybe we should, we got to do this more often.
Set up another one.
Yep, we'll do this more
often. The monthly or weekly MMA strength and conditioning mashup, and we.
I love it. MMA mash. I think we got it.
Maybe we get it to people can call in. Other coaches can call in. We can. At the end of the day, like I said, we got to make. They're human beings. They got to have a life after this. So our goal should always be life after the fights.
Love that, Jay. Any closing thoughts there, Dr. P?
No, I agree though. Let's do this more and let's make sure we keep getting this information out. It's the only way we can move the sport forward.
I'm coming down to see you, Peacock.
Bring it on. Let's go.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. I mean, in Florida, if somebody's in Wellington and somebody's in Davie, you feel like you might as well fly to California to go see each other, but we'll have to make that work.
We'll do it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Great conversation. I know Dr. Antonio works really fast to getting these episodes up. I look forward to, I hope we'll all share it and get this episode up probably by week's end. We'll have it prepared and get it out there.
I heard he's in Costa Rica developing a new stand-up paddleboard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it.
Well, good luck if he comes back.
It has a cat cage on the back.
All right, so Sports Science Dudes, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Check in with us. Gentlemen, I'll see you all real soon.
All right, good seeing y'all. Take care.
Thanks,
Good work,
guys.
guys.